We're gonna talk a little bit this morning about arrogance, I guess. Kind of arrogance, kind of maybe about being humble and kind or conceit or being selfless or whatever you consider it, you know, being a nice person. I got a video here to show to start us off. That's what we all are. Just dying stars. We're going to be in the book of Esther this morning, if anybody's interested. It's kind of hid there in the Bible, so you might need a minute or two to find it. Or the scripture will be on the screen, either way you want to go. We're going to talk a little bit about a story from Esther that illustrates what can happen to people who crave too much respect. You know, we all want to be respected. We all want people to look up to us. It's kind of a natural thing. You know, there was a time when I worked for the car dealerships that I probably sounded a little arrogant. I may still sound that way, I don't know. But there was probably a time when I did. Because since we moved around a few times, that meant that I had to go into different shops, and I had to, I guess, try to make my mark, make my presence known so that I could get some good work. You see, when you've been in the car dealership for years and you're working in the shop and they see you fix cars and they see you do these things, you fix a lot of cars, they know what you can do. They know what's going on, and they know you can do what you say you can do. But when you come to a place and nobody knows you, you sort of have to blow your own horn a little bit, you know? You have to tell the managers, you have to tell the people who are in charge what you can do, and you kind of have to make yourself sound as though you can fix anything. I can do anything. You see, in the mechanics world, the kind of work that you get can either make you or break you. So you want to get the good work. You want to be up there with the top mechanic, getting the kind of work that he gets. Now, once you're there for a while and people see what you can do, then it's not a problem because they know you can fix cars or fix lawnmowers or whatever the case may be. So you no longer have to exalt yourself anymore. But see, some people never get over that. Some people never get past the point where they think they need to blow their own horn, where they think that people need to think that they're really something. I'm really something. I can do anything. I've had this job and that job, and you know, I've met guys before that were 25 years old, and with the work experience they had given, you thought they were 75. You know, I worked at 15 different places, and I've done this and I've done that, and wait, you're only 25. How did you do all that? That's impossible. Those people are around, and they continue to brag and prove everybody how special they are. So I want to tell you a story this morning about a man who wanted to be exalted. He wanted everyone to kind of look down upon him, kind of like the guy who's in the video there. But it didn't seem to work out too well for him. We're going to read from the book of Esther. The book of Esther is a book in the Bible that is kind of called out by some people, because in the whole book it never really mentions God. But if you look in the pages, if you look in the stories, you can see God at work so many times in his people. We don't have to say the name of God to know that God's working, do we? So we're going to start out in chapter 3. This is sometime after Esther had been chosen as queen, and King Xerxes had granted Haman a seat of honor. And we're reading Esther 3, verses 1 and 2. It says, sometime later, King Xerxes promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, over all the other nobles, making him the most powerful official in the empire. All the king's officials would bow down before Haman to show him respect whenever he passed by, for so the king had commanded. But Mordecai refused to bow down or show him respect. Now remember, we're in Persia at this time, and the Jews are in exile. But Mordecai, he's a Jew. And he's also the cousin of Queen Esther. And he had also adopted Esther after her parents died. So she was truly, she's his cousin, but yet she's his daughter as well. Now Mordecai had instructed Esther not to tell anyone that she was a Jew, because the time came when King Xerxes was looking for a new queen, and Esther was in the pool of women to be picked out, and of course he picked her out, and she didn't tell anybody that she was a Jew. Xerxes didn't know that she was a Jew when he chose her as his wife. She kept all that a secret. So now in the king's court, Haman's given all this power, and everybody bows down to him except Mordecai. Doesn't that just burn you up? Doesn't that burn you up when you're supposed to have this honor? You got this title behind your name, and everybody's supposed to look up to you. Everybody's supposed to give you your respect. And everybody does. Except for this one guy. It's a funny thing about being in the car dealership too, once the guys in the dealership would find out I was a pastor, you always have those guys that would watch their mouth. We don't want to curse around the pastor. And they would be really careful. And then there were those other guys that just really didn't care. It didn't matter if I'd been the Pope. They were going to talk and do just like they did. That didn't bother me either way. But you always got that person that's just not going to show respect. So what did Haman do? So we're going to have to read down verse 5 now. Go to the next slide. And we're going to see the lack of respect brings anger. In Esther 3:5, when Haman saw that Mordecai would not bow down or show him respect, he was filled with rage. There are a lot of things in this life that can get us upset. A lot of things. But a whole lot of them have to do with respect. Just a lack of respect. A husband disrespects his wife. Kids disrespect their parents. Children in school disrespect the teacher. A lot of it has to do with just respect. Just being a nice person, being a civil person. Respecting this other human being as a person. I'm continued to be amazed at the amount of road rage incidents we see. Now I know you guys here in Crossett. Have you ever had a road rage incident in Crossett? Probably not. But in the bigger cities, it's not uncommon for people to pull guns. I know people that have driven down the roads and said, somebody pointed a gun out the window at me. When I was working in Panama City, I worked there at the dealership I told you about seeing after the storm. And there was a maintenance guy there. And one morning he came in, and he always wore short pants. And I looked down there, and his knees were all scratched up and everything. And I said, dude, what happened to you? He said, I don't know. He said, I was driving down 15th Street there, and this guy came up behind me blowing and cussing at me and said I cut him off. And he says, so we parked over there in the Kmart parking lot and rolled around in the parking lot for a while. All over just because the guy said he cut him off, Here, I think you could set through a whole green light and nobody would ever say anything, In Florida, when it turns green, you better have that foot like John Force. You better go. Or somebody's going to be back there on the horn blowing at you. The thing is, when people don't get respect, we get angry. And that's exactly what happened for Haman.
You got it.
Oh, there I go. Lost me there for a minute. We got mad. And what happens when people get mad? What do we get when we get mad? What do we want to get when we get mad? We want to get even, right? That's what the bumper sticker says. Don't get mad, get even. We can't let somebody cut us off. What does that look like? We can't let somebody get one over on us, so we have to find a way. We have to find a way to get even. But sometimes we really can't get even. Sometimes there's not really anything that we can do. So then we just stay mad and we just stew about it. You know, some of you might know I lived in Alabama for a while. Alabama's a football state, man, I'll tell you what. And I was the biggest Auburn fan when I lived there because there's no way I could root for the Crimson Tide. Never, ever. Saban, I hope you're watching this. It's because of him. Because of Nick Saban. I am sure that he is destined to become the greatest coach of all time. Maybe not even only in football, maybe of any sport. But if you listen to him talk for any length of time, you will think that he is the most miserable human being that God ever put on the earth. I cannot stand to see those press conferences and hear him talk. And that's what happens when you demand respect and you don't get it. And you get mad. So second thing, when you're mad, you want action. We got to do something. We can't just stay mad. We got to do something. Very few of us like to be mad. Do you like to be mad? I don't like to be mad. Now for Saban, I think he just likes it. That's what drives him. I don't know. I'm not sure about him. But most of us don't want to stay mad. We want to do something to get that revenge. We want to do something to get back at them and make them pay for what they did. And then we don't have to be mad anymore. So Haman did the same thing. Esther 3:8-11. Then Haman approached King Xerxes and said, "There is a certain race of people scattered through all the provinces of your empire who keep themselves separate from everyone else." So he didn't tell them that they were Jews. He just said there's these people. Their laws are different from those of any other people, and they refuse to obey the laws of the king. So it is not in the king's interest to let them live. If it please the king, issue a decree that they be destroyed, and I will give 10,000 large sacks of silver to the government administrators to be deposited in the royal treasury. The king agreed, confirming his decision by removing his signet ring from his finger and giving it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. The king said, "The money and the people are both yours to do with as you see fit." See, Haman, he got into the king's head. And that's the way you manipulate, influential people. You get into their head. Say, hey, we've got these people here that are not our own people. They don't act like us. They don't talk like us. They don't have the same laws that we have. They're not anything like us. They keep themselves separate. And Haman said, we need to just wipe them out. We need to just get rid of all of them. Let's just kill them all, right? Because Mordecai the Jew refuses to bow down to me. It's not good enough that I killed this Mordecai. I'm going to kill them all. I'm going to do away. I'm going to kill all the Jews. I'm going to show them how much respect that I deserve. Guess what? That attitude still exists. We see a person commit a crime in the name of a religion. We'll just kill them all. just kill all of them, right? Person speaks out because they have different beliefs, and we'll just kill them all. Let's do it. Let's get rid of them. That was exactly the theory behind Haman's rage, and he almost got away with it. Next slide. But you know what? There's this thing, and I hate to use this word because young people use it now. And there's not really anything to it, but it sounds good when you say, karma's going to get them. Every evil will eventually be punished. Maybe not now, maybe not by you and me, but someday. Every evil will eventually be punished. But see, Haman now has this plan to kill all the Jews. And it became known, the word was put out in the countryside, all the Jews were going to be massacred. So Mordecai now goes to his daughter/cousin, however you look at it, Queen Esther, and asks for help. Now Esther was favored by King Xerxes. I mean, that was this girl. He loved her. But at any rate, it was still taking her life into her own hands to even go and try to speak to him, unless the king requested to meet with her. But I guess she said, hey, I've got to help my people. And she did request a meeting with the king. And all she asked from him was that he and Haman attend a banquet to be prepared by her. He agreed. He goes home and goes to sleep. He's in bed and he wakes up and he couldn't sleep. So as kings do, they had someone read to him from the chronicles of his reign. You see, they wrote all the things down that the king did because, the king, you're king, you're kind of full of yourself anyway. And I guess he got bored and so they take it all out and they read all of his accomplishments. Probably didn't put any bad things in there, but they would read about the good things that the king did. Well, they came to the part in the Chronicles where two people were planning to execute King Xerxes. And see, Mordecai finds out about it, and he tells Queen Esther, and so the plan is thwarted. The two guys were executed instead, and King Xerxes was saved. And they get to this part, and King Xerxes says, wait. What did we do for Mordecai? What did we do to honor this guy who saved my life? And he brings Haman in. Haman says, oh, yeah, well, King Xerxes says, what would we do to honor a person like this? And Haman says, oh, man, I'd get the finest robe from the king and get the king's horse and parade him around the city square. And so he told Haman, he says, then that's what you do for Mordecai. You have to go get the king's robe, the horse, the whole bit. Haman parading him around the square. Don't you know that old Haman was fit to be tied? See, he hated Mordecai. This was a public disgrace for him, and it made him even more ready and willing to carry out this massacre that he was planning. So after he's publicly humiliated, see, then Haman is whisked off to this banquet for himself and for King Xerxes. Man, he was thrilled. He thought, man, I'm an honored guy just to get to eat here with the king and queen. So we'll pick up the story in chapter 7. It says, Queen Esther replied, if I have found favor with the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my request, I ask that my life and the lives of my people will be spared. So here's the news flash. You know, you're going to kill the Jews, and I'm one. For my people and I have been sold to those who would kill, slaughter, and annihilate us. If we had been merely sold as slaves, I could remain quiet, for that would be too trivial a matter to warrant disturbing the king. Who would do such a thing? King Xerxes demanded, "Who would be so presumptuous as to touch you?" Esther replied, "This wicked Haman is our adversary and our enemy." Haman grew pale with fright before the king and queen. Then the king jumped to his feet in a rage and went out into the palace garden. Haman, however, stayed behind to plead for his life with Queen Esther, for he knew that the king intended to kill him. If we finished reading here, we'd find that yes, in fact, that Haman was killed. He was hung on that same 75-foot gallows that he had built for Mordecai. I think the moral of this story is no matter how big, how bad, how untouchable you think you are, there's always someone that can take you down. And this story was Queen Esther. But I know that Esther was only the instrument of God's providence. When Mordecai was trying to seek help from Esther for the Jewish people, he said to her, "And who knows but that you have come to royal position for such a time as this?" He told her, this is God's plan. This is why you're here. This is why God made you queen. I believe there's no doubt of that. You see, in this life, those who demand respect will someday be shamed. Those who seek glory for themselves will someday be forgotten. Those who seek fame, those who seek fortune, either in this world or the world to come, will bow down to those who are nothing in this world. Matthew 11:11 says, "I tell you the truth, of all who have ever lived, none is greater than John the Baptist. Yet even the least person in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he is." What is it that you want to be known in this life for? How is it that you want to be remembered? How about if people came to your funeral and said, "Oh, he really had a nice car." Or maybe even a collection of cars. Like old Jay Leno has. He has lots of big collection of cars. What if people came to your funeral and said, "Oh, he really had some nice cars. They were just amazing"? What if they came and said, "That lady really could bake a good apple pie. Man, that was the best apple pie I ever ate. It was just so good." They may comment that you raised a nice family. Maybe that you had a good job or a really pretty house. They may be impressed because you left something to them in their will. Or maybe just because you had lots of flowers at your funeral. They must have had a lot of friends. They may come and you may have a big crowd, a big congregation at your funeral just to come and show their respect for you and your life. None of those things are bad. None of those things will really matter if you gain eternal life. if you are the least of these in heaven, then you're a greater person than John the Baptist, Jesus says. So I ask you, where are you today? Are you still in a place where you feel like you want accomplishments and respect for this life? Do you still want respect and admiration for the things that you work so hard for? Do you think that the world owes you something? I want to tell you the truth this morning. There is only one goal in this life that's worth pursuing with all that you have. And that's the kingdom of heaven. Someday some of you may get to come to my funeral. And if you can come to my funeral and say, we know for certain that he is in heaven, that's all I need. All these other things are temporary. All these other things will rot and rust. The money will be spent. The titles will someday mean nothing. If you haven't figured out what's important in this life this morning, then I pray that you do very soon. Come today, as we say, and earn the respect of the only one that really matters.